My husband took my younger sister Jian and Jian-law out to relax, but they were unfortunately kidnapped by mountain bandits. They demanded an exorbitant price, 100,000 taels of silver for one life. With my pregnant belly, I emptied out my dowry to save my husband. My younger sister Jian and Jian-law, on the other hand, was tragically raped by the mountain bandits and committed suicide out of shame and indignation. My husband didn't say a word yet. On the day I gave birth, he threw me into a pile of beggars. I was cut open and ravaged to death. Starting over once more, I decided to grant his wish. I'd like to see if the feelings between this pair of pseudo-Jian siblings are really, as they imagine, indestructible. Young madam, wake up quickly. Something terrible has happened. The marquise has been captured by mountain bandits. The maid, Xiao Tao, cried out in alarm, waking me from my nightmare. I subconsciously reached out to touch my belly. Thank heavens, the baby was safe and sound. I've been reborn. Young madam, what nonsense are you talking about? The old madam is in the front hall crying her heart out, waiting for you to make a decision. Is that so? I gave a contemptuous smile and slowly got up, facing the mirror. I began to meticulously put on my makeup. I had just finished my makeup when my mother Jian and Jian-law, Lady Yu, could no longer hold back and rushed furiously into my courtyard, supported by a servant. Fang Li, you have such a venomous heart. My son's life hangs by a thread, yet you remain unmoved. Are you hoping he dies soon? I shot Xiao Tao a look, and she immediately got the hint, kneeling on the ground to cry out about the injustice. Old madam, you've misunderstood. When the young madam heard that the marquis was in danger, she fainted from a fit of anxiety. This servant called her for a long time before she barely managed to wake up. I pretended to be too weak to stand and collapsed softly to the ground. When I looked up, my papered and pale face and bluish lips really gave the old madam a fright. You don't need to be too anxious. The mountain bandits are after money. They said it is 100,000 taels of silver for one life, so you'd better think of a way quickly. Just like in my past life, with a single sentence. The old madam tossed the hot potato to me. Back then, I was completely sincere and devoted. To save my husband, I emptied out my entire dowry to scrape together 100,000 taels of silver. But when I arrived at the mountain, pregnant belly and all, I only then discovered that it wasn't just my husband who had been kidnapped, but also my sister Jian and Jian-law, who was supposed to be at home preparing for her wedding. The bandits took the silver and allowed me to choose one of the two. Without any hesitation, I chose to save my husband first. Everyone is selfish. I couldn't let my child lose their father before they were even born. No sooner had I brought my husband home than I received the terrible news. My sister Jian and Jian-law was raped by the bandits, and in her grief and indignation, she jumped off a cliff, shattering into pieces. I thought my husband wouldn't be able to bear it, after all. He was notoriously a doting Jian brother, Jian maniac. The weight of his younger sister in his heart was far more important than me, his legitimate wife, but he didn't shed a single tear, silently handling his younger sister's funeral, until 5 months later when my childbirth was imminent. He suddenly turned hostile, pushed me out of the house, and threw me into a pile of beggars. I was disemboweled, ravaged to death. The child in my belly was devoured by wild dogs as soon as it was born. My husband watched this scene unfold, a crazed smile appearing on his face. Fang Li, you vicious fae, you were jealous of my love for ye, and deliberately used the mountain bandits to kill her. I swore to avenge her, and this is the fate you deserve. The overwhelming hatred wouldn't let me rest in peace. I prayed day and night, in exchange for a chance at rebirth. This time, I want to see if the affection between this pair of pseudo-Jian siblings is really as they imagine. Indestructible. Daughter Jian and Jian-law, I'm talking to you. Did you hear me? Hurry up and get the money to save your husband. It'll be too late if you dawdle any longer. Seeing no reaction from me, the old madam decided to just lay it all out. I nodded while reaching my hand out to her. Mother, Give me the key to the money chest, and I'll go get the money from the bookkeeper right away. The old madam's face instantly turned as red as a monkey's butt, unable to squeeze out a single word for a long time. I covered my mouth and let out a gasp. No way, the grand Yongchang Marquis mansion can't even come up with 100,000 taels of silver. How is that possible? Your father Jianin Zanlaw died early. I'm just a woman of the inner quarters, like fish on a chopping block for anyone to slaughter. These years I've fought tooth and nail just to barely hold on to the noble title. As for that gold and silver, it was long ago snatched and divided up by shameless relatives. The old madam cried with heart-wrenching sorrow, as if she had suffered a great injustice. I sneered. This is treating me like a fool. With her ruthless methods, those relatives wouldn't have gotten any advantage at all. These years, she has been scheming and speculating and transferred all the mansion's property into her own private treasury. Now that her own son is in trouble, she won't give a single penny. Instead, she is eyeing her daughter in Zanlaw's dowry. Truly shameless to the extreme. Money is an external possession. Nothing is more important than my husband's life. I made up my mind, preparing to open the storehouse and take out my dowry. But I don't know if it was because I was too grieved, or if I got up too quickly. All of a sudden, I felt dizzy. The next moment, right in front of the old madam. Once again, I splendidly fainted. The old madam was so angry smoke was coming out of her 7 orifices. She ordered the servants to pinch my philtrum, and even wanted to splash my face with ice water. Old madam, you mustn't. The young madam is pregnant. If anything happens to the young marquis, that is your only grandson. Xiao Tao's words made the old madam come to her senses. Even though she hated me, she didn't dare to touch a hair on my head. I slept comfortably for a full 3 shichen. When I woke up, the old madam had already gathered 100,000 taels of silver, packed and ready to go. I'm sorry, mother. It is your daughter Zan and Zanlaw who is useless. Cut the crap. I have trouble walking. You go with housekeeper Liu up the mountain to ransom him. You must bring my son back safely. Returning to the old place. My heart was pounding. Everything was just like in my last life. The mountain bandits took the silver and brought me to the dungeon. Choose one of 2, who dies, who lives, decide, and fast. After 2 lifetimes, I finally saw my husband once again, the handsome and dashing young marquis of the Yongchang Marquis's manor, with a boundless future, Gu Changgeng, and his sister in name. My little sister in Zanlaw, Gu Yiyi. The ridiculous thing is, the house was in a complete uproar. But these 2, under the cover of darkness, broke through the secular shackles, hugging and kissing inseparably. Butler Liu, walking in front of me, saw this scene and let out a loud scream in fright. What is wrong? What happened? I acted like I knew nothing and walked over quickly. At this moment, Yi had already pushed Gu Changgeng away, glaring at me, her face full of displeasure. Eldest sister Zanin Zanlaw. You're late. I covered my mouth, my face full of shock. Little sister, why are you here? Gu Yi hemmed and hawed, unable to speak. As a bride, Zan to Zan be about to be married. According to the rules, she was not supposed to go out. But not only did she sneak out, she was also kidnapped by mountain bandits. If this gets out, her reputation will be ruined. Gu Changgeng protected Gu Yi behind him, glaring at me defensively. Don't you blame her. It was I who couldn't bear to see her crying day and night. So I specifically brought her out to clear her mind. Encountering the mountain bandits was a complete accident. Crying day and night? What for? Cut the crap. I know you brought 100,000 taels of silver, which is only enough to save 1 person. This time, you must take Yi away first. This time, my heart trembled, and I suddenly realized this man before me perhaps has also had a rebirth. No, absolutely not. Butler Liu was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. The old madam gave this servant a death order, to be sure to bring you back completely unscathed. You are the lord of the Marquis's mansion. Your status is noble. There absolutely cannot be the slightest mishap. I'm a grown man. What mishap could befall me? On the contrary, Yi staying here is the same as falling into a wolf's den. You guys hurry up and take her away, then raise more silver to ransom me. Gu Changgang had a look of determination. I shook my head, on the verge of tears. Husband, shut up. Pitifully, before I could even say a word, Gu Changgang suddenly flew into a rage. Fang Li, I know you are jealous of Yi. You think I shouldn't be so good to her, but we have been together since childhood. Our feelings are extraordinary. If you still want to secure your position as the Marquise's wife, then obediently follow my arrangements. Gu Changgang's gaze was sharp. The threat in it was completely obvious. Since the Marquis has commanded, I shall naturally obey. I immediately called over the mountain bandits and had them release Gu Yi. Gu Changgang didn't expect me to agree so readily, and his expression suddenly became a little strange. Thank you, big brother. I knew no one in this world dotes on me more than you. Don't worry. I will supervise Sister Jianin Zanlaw and make her raise the silver to save you as soon as possible. Ji Yi was ecstatic to be free again, and without even having time to say goodbye, she skipped and bounced away. My husband, take care. I took out a handkerchief and wiped away the tears that weren't even there. But just as I turned to leave, Gu Changgang suddenly spoke up and stopped me. Fang Li, you will come back, right? This apprehensive tone revealed the unease in his heart. I really couldn't help but want to laugh. Gu Changgang, this is just the beginning, please. You must stick to your original intentions, and don't you dare disappoint me. On the carriage ride back, Gu Yi's eyes were full of flirtation, and she was gloating. Sister Jianin Zanlaw, you probably don't know this, but I'm actually just the Jiyu family's adopted daughter. I have no blood relationship with Big Brother. Stop dreaming. Since you're on the Jiyu family's genealogy, you can only be the Marquise's sister in this life, with no possibility of change. Gu Yi didn't expect me to be so blunt, and her face instantly flushed bright red. As a woman, to never receive your husband's affection in your entire life. Don't you think you're pathetic, Sister Jianin Zanlaw? I sneered. A husband's affection. What kind of life, claiming filth is that? In this life, all I want is power, wealth, and heirs, and the lives of that scumbag man and bitchy woman. The old madam couldn't believe it for the life of her. She'd spent her coffin money, yet still failed to save her son. To make matters worse, Gu Yi was still crying and sniveling, trying to seek her mother's comfort. The old madam was furious and slapped her to the ground. How have I wronged you? Why must you harm me like this? Gu Yi was stunned by the slap and hurriedly explained. Mother, don't worry. Those mountain bandits agreed to give us one more day. As long as we gather enough silver, brother will definitely be fine. That is right, Mother. You don't need to worry about the money. I'll go sell my dowry right now. Just as I was about to turn, the old madam slumped to the ground, breaking down in tears. It is too late. I've already reported it to the capital prefecture magistrate, and he has taken 500 elite soldiers up the mountain to exterminate the bandits. The soldiers were just about to storm the mountain. Those mountain bandits had no choice but to abandon their lair of many years and flee for their lives. Before leaving, they planned to kill Gu Changgang to vent their anger. Who knew he would take advantage of the chaos to escape, running wildly all the way to the edge of a cliff. Seeing the large sabers waving behind him, Gu Changgang closed his eyes and jumped. When the soldiers brought him back, he was mangled beyond recognition. The old madam took one look and fainted dead away. I spent a fortune to bring all the famous doctors in the city to my mansion. After working for 5 days and 5 nights, we finally pulled him back from the gates of hell. Gu Yi heard her elder brother had woken up and came to visit. Full of joy, but just as she stepped into the room, she was so horrified by the scene before her that she screamed. Brother, your legs, your eyes. How could this happen? Gu Changgang had just woken up from a coma, his mind a chaotic mess. Only after Gu Yi reminded him did he realize he had lost a left leg and a right eye. And just like that, his world collapsed. The dashing young master who once drew the eyes of countless girls had suddenly become an unbearably ugly cripple. This was simply more terrifying than being killed. Yi, in his despair, he reached out his hand to the one he loved. Gu Yi's face was deathly pale, and she subconsciously took a step forward. But then she immediately shook her head again, turned around, and ran out the door as if escaping. "My lord, you nearly lost your life to save my little sister, but she can't seem to accept how you look now. Get out." Gu Chonggeng completely broke down, and with a loud roar, he tore open his still unhealed wound again. Watching the fresh blood gush out, I can't tell you how satisfied I felt inside. It is all my fault. If I hadn't been so heartbroken over the silver and rushed to report to the officials, how would Zhang have ended up in such a state? It is all my fault. Although the old madam treats me harshly, she truly dotes on her own son. In the past few days, she was both heartbroken and guilty. Her body and mind were tortured, as if she had aged several decades in an instant. The Marquise is muddled and headed. Sichuan has always been rampant with bandits, a place everyone avoids. He could have gone for an outing anywhere. Why did he have to pick that place? The old madam gritted her teeth in hatred. He is not a reckless person. He must have been instigated by that little fate house. I cautiously glanced at her. Little sister is your daughter, after all. It is probably not appropriate for you to talk about her like that. She is not my daughter. She is a jinx destined to bring calamity. It wasn't enough to jinx her own parents to death. Now she has to come and harm my son. I truly regret it. I shouldn't have been soft Dan-hearted back then and brought her back to the manor. The old madam was emotional and blurted out the whole story. It turned out that Gu Yi's birth mother was the old madam's dowry maid. In order to help the old madam manage the manor and take care of the children, she worked herself to the bone and died of illness at a young age. Mindful of her loyalty, the old madam brought her only daughter back to the manor and took her in as an adopted daughter. For all these years, although the old madam was not as devoted to her as she was to her biological son, she still gave her the dignity befitting a young lady of the manor. That is great, so the young miss and the Marquise are not blood relatives. This servant can finally rest assured. Butler Liu patted his chest forcefully. The scene in the dungeon that day had been a huge shock to him, and he hadn't been able to sleep for several days. The old madam heard his hidden meaning and sharply berated him, telling him to explain himself clearly. Steward Liu's expression was awkward, his eyes filled with helplessness. I immediately got up and went outside the door. The children she had painstakingly raised were having a forbidden affair behind her back. One can only imagine how furious the old madam must have been. If I didn't want to get dragged into it, it was best to steer clear as soon as possible. However, some things can't be avoided just by wanting to. That night, Steward Liu suddenly requested to see me, saying that the old madam, in a fit of rage, was going to strangle my sister Zan to death, and asked me to hurry over and talk her down. I hurried to the ancestral hall and saw Gu Yi in her undergarments, pinned to the ground by two old maids unable to move. "Fang Li, what the hell did you say to Mother? She has always doted on me. How could she bear to kill me? You must have framed me. You'll die a horrible death. Shut up. You yourself are shameless, seducing your own brother and causing this disaster. Yet you dare to drag your sister Zan into it. Today, I will enforce the family law upon you in front of the Gu family ancestors to avenge my son." At the old madam's command, the two old maids grabbed a hemp rope and looped it around Gu Yi's neck. "No, you can't kill me. I'm already betrothed. General Qi is deeply in love with me. If he finds out I died at your hands, he'll make this entire Marquise's mansion be buried with me." Gu Yi's hoarse threat made the old madam pause for a moment, and a trace of panic flashed across her face. Seeing this, I quickly walked forward and ordered the old maids to withdraw. "Mother, calm your anger. She is right. The Marquise disabled, and the Yongchang Marquise's mansion is already in decline, unable to withstand any more destruction." Liu Yi's eyes were full of arrogance as she gracefully stood up. It is Sister Zan Law who sees things clearly. General Qi is a new favorite of the court, holding great power in the future. There will be many things Mother will need to rely on me for. The old madam was filled with rage, her eyes glaring furiously. Fei, you harmed my son to this extent, yet you turned around to have a grand wedding. How can I possibly endure this? Everything my brother did was of his own free will. I didn't force him. If you must blame someone, blame Sister Zan Law for her incompetence in securing her husband's heart. Faced with Lu Yiyai's provocation, I smiled faintly. General Qi is coming to the mansion tomorrow to visit the Marquis. Aren't you afraid I'll say something in front of him? Hilarious. You think he would believe you? I am the one who saved his life, and he has sworn a solemn oath to be good to me forever. It was a pure accident that Gu Yiyi got to know Grand General Qi Huai. 2 years ago, when I was betrothed to Gu Changgung, Gu Yiyi was filled with resentment and went to Lingyan Temple alone to offer incense. Bored in the middle of the night, she wandered around the temple. She accidentally bumped into a mysterious man who was heavily injured and unconscious. In order to save him, she disregarded her reputation and tore off her own clothes to bandage his wound. The man had lost too much blood and was on the verge of death, so she directly cut her own blood vessel and used her own blood to pull him back from the brink. The next day, when the man woke up, she had already gracefully departed. Later on, the high and mighty General Qi came to the Marquise's residence with a handkerchief embroidered with Gu Yiyi's maiden name to propose marriage. Gu Yiyi was ecstatic. Her status was already awkward, unable to find a suitable match, so latching on to General Qi was like hitting the jackpot because of the life-saving grace from that day. Qi Huai granted her every request, but she didn't sever the illicit relationship with her brother because of it. On the contrary, she greatly enjoyed the feeling of being cherished by 2 men at the same time, and was often proud of it. Ever since Gu Changgang woke up, he had been refusing all visitors. This time, hearing that his love rival had come, he became even more agitated and forbade him from coming near no matter what. Qi Huai was considered reasonable. He left the gift and prepared to leave. General Qi, it wasn't easy for you to come. If not staying for a meal, at least have a cup of tea. Otherwise, Mother will surely blame me for being impolite and a poor hostess. Qi Huai nodded and followed me to the flower hall. General Qi, you manage a myriad of affairs every day, yet you specially took the time to visit my husband. I am endlessly grateful. I waved away the servants and personally served the teacup to Qi Huai. We're all family, young madam. No need to be so polite. Qi Huai got up to take the tea, but sniffed the moment he got close to me. Forgive my rudeness, young madam. The fragrance on you seems rather unusual. I nodded and answered with a smile. General Qi's nose is really sharp. This fragrance is called Qing Hengxiang. My mother specially blended it for me, and there is no second person in the whole world who uses it. Qi Huai's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. Impossible. I can't be mistaken. It is this very smell. General Qi, please have some tea. Poor me, my hands got sore from holding it. I had no choice but to speak up and call him. Qi Huai awoke as if from a dream. But in his panic, he unexpectedly knocked over the teacup, the scalding hot tea pouring all over my sleeve. I was so scalded I was hopping on my feet, and Qi Huai abruptly reached out and pulled up my sleeve, revealing the glaring knife scar on my wrist. 2 years ago, young madam. Have you ever been to Lingyan Temple? My eyes were full of panic, and I snatched my hand back like a rabbit. What is General Qi saying? I don't understand. Please have a seat. General Qi, I'm going back to my room to change my clothes. Qi Huai stood before me like a wall of bronze and iron. I couldn't stand his piercing gaze. I was so anxious I was about to cry. What are you doing? Just as I was in a predicament, Gu Yiyai came running in furiously. General Qi, don't you listen to my sister Zan Law's nonsense? She has been through too much stimulation recently and has completely lost her mind. After Gu Yiyi finished speaking, she gave me a hard shove. Big brother will throw a fit if he doesn't see Sister Zan-in-Zan-Law for even a moment. Sister Zan-in-Zan-Law, you should hurry over. Don't embarrass yourself here. I lowered my head, said nothing, and quickly walked away after an incense stick's worth of time. Gu Yi saw her fiancé off, then turned and came to find me. Fang Li, just stop wasting your energy. No matter what you say or do, you can't affect Qi Huai's feelings for me. Seeing I had no reaction, Gu Yi extended her wrist, as white and smooth as jade. Just now, he even told me, the Emperor gifted him a pair of 9 Immortals' white jade bracelets. He wants to give them to me, but he is worried my wrist is too slender and they won't stay on. I sighed softly. Is that so? General Qi is completely devoted to you, sister, and cares for you meticulously. It truly makes one envious. Your envy is useless. The wedding day is approaching. No matter who it is, don't even think about stopping me from becoming the Grand General's wife. On the day of Gu Yi's grand wedding, Gu Changgang, who had been constantly bedridden, actually stood on one leg, leaning on a crutch. I knew he wanted to personally see his beloved younger sister off for the last part of her journey. It is just a pity that when Gu Yi saw him, she wasn't moved, but instead felt the black gauze over his right eye was extremely unlucky. I'm useless and can't stay by your side forever, brother. But you are always in my thoughts. Please take care of yourself. I will come back to see you often. Gu Changgang was silent. He took out a small box from behind him, which contained all the savings he had accumulated over the years. Gu Yi's eyes lit up. The old madam hated her to the bone, and the dowry she prepared for her was all for show. She urgently needed a sum of money to have on hand. Thank you, brother. To be your sister in this life is Yi's greatest fortune. Yi walked past me with her head held high and spat out 4 words. Loser. I couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing with a PFFT. Silly sister, you think this is the end? No, the good show is just beginning. The Marquise's mansion is in the south of the city, and the great general's mansion is in the north. On the way, they had to pass a stone bridge. The bridge was narrow, barely wide enough for one bridal sedan. The rest of the guards and servants could only follow from a distance. As the bridal sedan reached the middle of the bridge, an iron chain descended from the sky, sweeping both the person and the sedan into the river. The accident happened so fast that by the time the guards arrived, the sedan was already empty and the bride was nowhere to be found. General Qi was heartbroken over the loss of his beloved wife. Filled with grief and indignation, he held a knife to the neck of the capital's governor, demanding an explanation. The capital prefecture magistrate pulled several all-Dan-nighters and finally found out that the culprits ambushing underwater were escaped bandits from Mount C, who plotted revenge because they held a grudge. For the reputation of the Marquise's manor, the old madam casually fished an unidentifiable female corpse out of the river and buried her as the adopted daughter. On the day of the burial, General Qi came to offer his condolences. There was not the slightest grief in his expression, but rather an undisguised disgust. She was your fiancée in name after all. General Qi, you should at least put on a show to avoid being criticized. Qi Huai snorted coldly. I hate deception more than anything in my life. If it weren't for my consideration for the young madam, I would definitely have the Gu Manor's assets seized and their entire clan exterminated. I am guilty. If I had told the truth earlier, General Qi wouldn't have been deceived until now. Qi Huai waved his large hand, his words sharp. At that time, madam, you were already engaged to Gu Changgang. If word got out that you were in contact with another man, the relationship between our 2 families would surely have been damaged. I don't blame you, madam. I only blame that substitute, that reputation Zan stealing Fei. My sister Jan and Zan Law got what she deserved, but I feel so sorry for my husband. He refuses to believe his only sibling is gone, dragging his crippled leg to wait by the river all day. No one's advice works on him. If this goes on, I'm truly afraid his body won't be able to take it. Speaking of this sad part, I couldn't help but let my tears fall like rain. Qi Huai's expression gradually softened and a trace of pity appeared in his eyes. "Forgive me for being blunt. Gu Changgang is not worthy of you at all. If young madam is willing, I can ask the emperor for a decree to allow you and Gu Changgang to divorce." I shook my head and refused without even thinking. Gu Changgang hasn't finished paying me back for what he owes. How could I possibly let him off so easily? Gu Changgang's actions utterly disappointed the old madam, and she began to shift her focus to her unborn grandson. Overnight, I became the most protected person in the Marquise's mansion. All kinds of delicacies and expensive supplements flowed into my courtyard like a stream. In just a few days, I had gained a lot of weight. It is just a pity that such comfortable days didn't last long. One night, half a month later, a woman in ragged clothes and covered in injuries struggled to knock on the gate of the Marquise's mansion. The gatekeeper, upon seeing the woman's appearance clearly, turned pale with fright and ran away. The eldest young lady of the Marquise's mansion, who had long been buried and at peace, had actually come back from the dead. This news was simply too horrifying. The old madam ordered everyone to keep their mouths shut, preparing to secretly execute this ill-fated creature. Gu Changgang, leaning on a crutch, rushed into the ancestral hall and, disregarding everything, protected Gu Yiyi behind him. "Mother, if you want to kill her, then kill me first. As long as I have a breath left, I will protect her completely." The old madam was so anxious she stomped her feet. "Silly son, Gu Yiyi's name has already been cancelled, and General Qi is engaged to Princess Zhouyang. If she doesn't die, she will only bring endless trouble to the Marquise's mansion. No, I can give her a new identity. From today on, she will be the new concubine in the mansion. Your son has fallen to this state, with no joy left in this life. I only ask to be with Yi forever. I beg mother to grant my wish." Gu Changgang cried his heart out, and the old madam looked troubled as she turned to look at me. I lowered my eyes submissively and curtsied. "Mother, rest assured, as long as the Marquise is happy, your humble servant will obey everything. Good child, you have been wronged. Mother promises you. You are the only mistress of the Marquise's mansion, and no one can ever shake your position." With a face full of gratitude, I snuggled up beside the old madam. "Mother, your daughter Zan can only rely on you now," as we spoke. Lu Yiyi slowly woke up the moment she saw me. A monstrous hatred erupted in her eyes. "Fang Li, you Fei, you secretly colluded with Qi Huai to plot my death. I'm going to kill you. Yi, don't be rash. This was done by mountain bandits. It has nothing to do with Fang Li. In fact, she is a reasonable person. You just have a lot of prejudice against her." "Prejudice, brother? Do you know what kind of life I lived after being abducted by bandits? Those jackals and tigers didn't treat me like a human at all. Every moment, I was living in purgatory. If it weren't for seeking revenge on her, I wouldn't have lasted until today." Gu Yiyi rushed at me with all her might, but she didn't even touch the corner of my clothes before fainting once again. Gu Changgang's eyes were full of pity. He took off his outer robe, draped it over Gu Yiyi, and ordered people to carry her back to his own room. The old madam was feeling frustrated and spat at their retreating figures. A filthy thing ridden by 1,000 men and straddled by 10,000. Only that fool treats her like a treasure. "Mother, I'm due to give birth in 2 months. Little sister is so crazed. I'm really afraid some accident will happen." The old madam frowned. Her long-awaited grandson was in danger. How could this be allowed? And so, the next day, most of the servants in the manor were transferred to my side to attend to me. Everything I consumed was inspected by the manor's physician, and only after ensuring it was completely safe would it be brought before me. After Gu Yiyi recovered from her injuries, she tried every possible way to harm me. But I was surrounded as if by an iron barrel, and she couldn't find any opportunity at all. "So what if you're pregnant? It is not even known if it is a boy or a girl. Let's see how long you can be smug." I held my belly, a faint, sweet smile on my face. "Mother said this child is the Marquise's bloodline, the future of the Marquise's manor. Whether it is a boy or a girl, they are incredibly precious." "Pa, You think you're the only one in this world who can have a baby, right now. In the Marquise's heart and eyes, there is only me. If I give birth to a male heir before you, then everyone in the Marquise's residence will have to hold me in the highest esteem. You, this malicious fae, will have no place to stand anymore. The more Guyi thought about it, the more excited she became. That night, she changed her previous indifferent attitude toward Gu Changgang and proactively crawled into his quilt. Although Gu Changgang had a physical disability, it didn't affect his functions in certain aspects. The two of them were like dry tinder and a raging fire entangled day and night, which angered the old madam into cursing Gu Yi as a vixen, saying she would only stop after sucking her son's vital essence and blood dry. The Marquise has finally gotten his wish after so much difficulty. It is inevitable that he is a bit indulgent. Have the manor physician prepare some bodied and strengthening tonics and send them over. Be sure to let them enjoy themselves to the fullest. Hao nodded while secretly snickering. Concubine went to such great lengths. If she knew the Marquise can never have children in this life, I wonder if she would just pass out from anger. I picked up the silver spoon, eating the premium bloodbird's nest in the bowl spoonful by spoonful. When Gu Chang'an was first injured and had no one to look after him, it was I, with my pregnant belly, who served him with all my heart and saved his life. As interest, I added a precious little something to his medicine bowl. So what he lost wasn't just his left leg and right eye, but also the fertility that my child must be the only one in the Marquise's mansion. This is what Gu Changfeng owes him. As his mother, I have a duty to get it back for him. A month passed, and Gu Yiyi's belly showed no signs of anything. She started to get anxious and sought out doctors everywhere. But all the doctors said there was nothing wrong with either of them. It was just that the time wasn't right yet. But she no longer had time to wait. After thinking it over and over, she decided to find someone to borrow a seed from. She looked over every guard in the mansion one by one, and finally found one whose facial features and eyes bore a slight resemblance to Gu Chang'an. She used both soft and hard tactics, seducing and coercing, forcing the other party to have intercourse with her. At my behest, everyone in the mansion made things convenient for them. Compared to a cripple, the guard's strong and virile body made Gu Yiyi unable to stop. In the woodshed, in the stables, evidence of their pleasure was left everywhere. Finally, on the very day I gave birth to my daughter, Gu Yiyi also announced she was with child. Gu Chang'an was overjoyed. A worthless little girl was dispensable to him. But this pregnancy of Gu Yiyi's was enough to prove that he was still a healthy man who could conquer his beloved fae. The moment the old madam saw her own granddaughter, she suddenly turned hostile. She wanted to take back all the special privileges she had given me, but discovered she couldn't command anyone. The servants in the mansion all followed my lead. Fang Li, you're rebelling. Aren't you afraid I'll have the Marquis divorce you? Mother, don't you play dumb. The Marquis is crippled. His official position has been stripped, and all the expenses in this mansion are being covered by my own dowry. If you really divorce me, forget about ordering servants around. I'm afraid you won't even be able to eat and will have to beg on the streets with your son. The old madam gritted her teeth in hatred, but there was nothing she could do. Within 2 days, she was bedridden. I had her daily ginseng stopped and replaced with fresh radish roots. She was gasping for breath every day and no longer had the time to come and make trouble for me. At my daughter's full moon banquet, Qi Huai brought his newlywed wife, the emperor's most favored youngest daughter, Princess Zhou Yang, to the Marquise's mansion to back me up. Princess Zhou Yang adored my daughter and couldn't put her down. Not only did she graciously give her the name Wanwan, but she also announced on the spot that she would be her godmother. I originally thought she was just acting on a whim. Who knew that the very next day she would go to the palace to request a decree from the emperor, bestowing upon Wanwan the title of Commandery Princess Qingping. Full of gratitude, I took my child to the princess's mansion to express my thanks. Princess Zhaoyang was very warm, holding my hand and calling me, "Elder sister, there is something you may not know. When I first saw General Qi at the age of 11, I swore I would marry no one but him in this life. You are his life-saving benefactor, and also the noble person who helped my dream come true. With General Qi and me as your backing, you don't need to give a mere marquise's mansion a second thought." With these words from Princess Joyoung, I no longer had any reservations. Gu Yiyi was 5 months pregnant, and the mansion's doctor confirmed it was undoubtedly a boy. She was courting death, running up to me to provoke me. I ordered the gardener to place a pot of fresh Zan Yilang in her room. That very night, she found her fate unbearable, found a guard, and tumbled in bed. Just a wall away, Gu Qingjang was still up reading by lamplight, trying to come up with a peerlessly good name of unparalleled wealth and honor for his unborn son. I brought my people and broke down the door. "Lord Marquis, with all this devotion to my sister, is it truly out of deep love, or are you just trying to convince yourself that your choice back then wasn't wrong?" Gu Changjiang was exasperated, his fury showing on his face. "Fang Li, have you gone mad? The entire Marquise's manor is under your control now. Even I, the Marquise, have to live by watching your mood. What are you still not satisfied with?" My expression was frosty, and I slowly shook my head. The vengeance for my child's murder has not been repaid. The bones and deep hatred has not subsided. Lord Marquis, between you and me, we are fated to fight to the death. Gu Changgang was dumbstruck, fear written all over his face. "Who are you? You're not Fang Li." "That is right, I'm not Fang Li. I'm a demon who crawled out of hell." I suddenly reached out, ripped off the black. "Don't touch me." Gu Changgang wanted to escape, but was limited by his crippled leg and fell heavily to the ground. I nodded lightly, and the servants behind me all exerted their strength together, smashing a large hole in the partition wall in front of them. A lifelike live erotic scene thus appeared before everyone. "Marquise, this is the grand gift I've carefully prepared for you. Do you like it?" Gu Yiyi woke up from her daze, pushed away the man on top of her, and frantically threw herself down at Gu Changgang's feet. "Brother, listen to me. It is not what you saw. She framed me on purpose. I'm innocent. Faye, for you I killed my wife and abandoned my child. For you I risked everything, making myself neither human nor ghost. I gave you everything. How dare you betray me? How dare you?" Gu Shanggang's expression was crazed. Using all his strength, he tightly choked Gu Yiyi's neck. Gu Yiyi struggled with all her might, biting down on his arm, the mouthful of blood making her look exceptionally terrifying. "Don't make yourself sound so great. A man who would have covetous thoughts for his own sister. What kind of good person could you be? You swear on it. If you knew back then that Mother had reported it to the authorities, would you still have saved me first? Shut up. Bring me my sword. I'm going to chop this adulterous couple Faye into meat paste." Gu Changgang roared himself hoarse, but received no response at all. I looked down at him, like looking at a dead dog in a powerless rage. Gu Yi saw which way the wind was blowing and started begging me miserably. "Sister Zan in Zan law." "No, madam. 1,000 faults, 10,000 faults. It is all my fault. I shouldn't have made an enemy of you everywhere out of jealousy. Now I have been punished. I beg you to be the bigger person and spare my life. I promise that in this lifetime, I will never set foot in the capital again. I gave you a chance before. It was you who insisted on coming back. Now you want to leave. I'm afraid that is not very likely." I cleared out the main courtyard, leaving only this pair of bitter lovers who had turned against each other. Gu Changgang once said that the greatest wish in his life was to stay with the one he loves forever. Now it has finally come true. The servant in charge of delivering meals would come to report to me every day about the happy life of these two people. The Marquise, while the concubine was asleep, tied her up tightly, gouged out her left eye, and cut off her right leg. He said only in this way would the two of them be a good enough match. Concubine narrowly escaped death and chopped off the Marquise's manhood with one slice. She said for Den nothing like him. It was useless to keep it anyway. The two of them couldn't take it anymore, so they agreed to hang themselves together. But at the last moment, they both backed out and only wanted to strangle the other person. Concubine gave birth to a boy, But it is a shame that the moment the baby's head came out, he was strangled to death by the Marquis. Concubine went mad too. The corpse had already turned into white bones, yet she still held it every day and wouldn't let go. The years flowed by like water, in the blink of an eye. Wan was already 6 years old. She was curious about everything in the world. I was afraid that one day she would wander into that hell on earth and see things she shouldn't. So, on the mid-Zan autumn festival night, a time for family reunions, a great fire mysteriously broke out in the manor. After the fire was extinguished, everything was reduced to dust. I had completely escaped the nightmare of my past life and started to embrace a new one. Hearing the terrible news, the old madam died of rage, her eyes open in death. I found the 4 words Yongchang Marquis Mansion too inauspicious, so I took it upon myself to change it to Qingping Commandery Princess Mansion. After the emperor found out, not only did he not blame me, instead, he even made me a first dan rank titled Madam and rewarded me with 10,000 taels of gold. I have power, money, and leisure, and I don't have to serve a husband or parents dan in Zan law. Overnight, I became the most envied widow in the entire capital city, but I wasn't satisfied because I knew that my good days were still to come.